Time to check in with one of our favorite dudes on the planet. He is the head coach of the University of Utah men's basketball team, and it's been a minute since we've had him on the show. Craig Smith, kind enough to join us. Coach, how are you?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How we doing, Scotty and Hans?
Man, it's good to hear your voice.
I gotta ask them. What's that?
It's good to hear your voice, Coach.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I got to ask, though, what's a kachuk? I'm from northern Minnesota, so it kind of sounds like maybe something from northern Minnesota or Canada. I don't know.
Yeah, it's these the two hockey dudes for Team USA that are picking fights with all the Canadians.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Kachuk.
I haven't been.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how much, growing up in Minnesota, you got to have a little bit of hockey in your blood, don't you?
No, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about hockey. I know what offsides is. I still haven't figured out offsides in soccer, but I do know what offsides in hockey is. And I went to my first. I went to school at the University of North Dakota. That's a huge hockey school. I mean, their facility, 25 years ago was like an NHL arena. But I did go to the Utah Hockey Club against the Calgary Canucks. I think it was late October I went, and it was awesome. It was so fun. And I had a pretty solid seat. So the action, and it really stood out how loud it was. Like the stick hitting the ice slashed the puck. And then when that puck just kind of raises, like I've been to one PGA golf event in my life, and when I hit a golf ball, it just kind of pops up. When those guys, the PGA guys, hit it, it's like a plane taking off the runway, just kind of low and just and that's like the hockey pucks, right? They just kind of low, and then they drill the plexiglass. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was so fun. And then the best part was the checking. Although it's not like, now I'm really gonna bore you, but I got to share this. So I didn't have cable. I grew up with no cable TV until I was like 11th grader. And I'm the oldest of 5 boys, so I always had to babysit my brothers, and then to make extra money, I'd babysit at other people's houses. And so the one sporting event that was always on was the Winnipeg Jets on PBS. So I grew up like an hour and 45 minutes from Winnipeg. So I would be bored out of my mind, and I'm just trying to find a sport. I just love sports. And I'd watch the Winnipeg Jets from like 8 to 10 at night. And so anyway, I haven't shared that story in a long, long time. I thought I'd share with you guys.
Well, that's probably where you fell into love with wrestling, too, is because, those late nights, Saturday, if you get head-to-head with Saturday Night Live, you'd switch back and forth between that because you didn't have the satellite dish or the cable TV.
Now you're speaking my language. That's exactly right. It was WWF, I think it was called back then, WWF. And it was like 11 to midnight on Saturday nights, like once a month. Oh, my gosh. I couldn't wait to babysit those nights.
Well, Coach,
I'm going crazy.
Well, Coach, I'm going to catch you up on this because you got to know tomorrow night is going to be a big night, and you got to tune in and watch. I know you guys got till Sunday till you're back in action, but tomorrow night it's called the Four Nations Tournament, and we're talking about these Kachuk boys. So their dad, Keith Kachuk, was a big thing in the NHL. He had these 2 boys in Scottsdale, Arizona, raises them up, Brady and Matthew Kachuk, and they're the toughest dudes in the NHL. 9 seconds into their match against Canada, they drop their gloves and start throwing fists because of, all the noise, and Canada thinks they're the real deal. And so they drop their gloves and they start throwing knuckles, and United States beats the crap out of Canada. Well, United States makes it to the finals. Canada wins again. They make it to the finals. So now we got a rematch of United States versus Canada coming up Thursday, and the Kachucks have caused all kinds of havoc. And I'm going to tell you, that's one. It's not the Winnipeg Jets, but it's one you're going to want to tune in for.
Well, it sounds fascinating to me. If it's 9 seconds in and there's a bit of a rumble, it's going to be worth the time to check it out, or at least DVR it and fast forward to the fights.
Well, USA's wrecking Canada the way that the state of Utah's wrecking the state of Kansas. But you get back-to-back wins, Kansas and then Kansas State, and it feels like things have really started to build some momentum up there on the hill. How do you keep what you've got going right now and keep that for the final stretch of the season?
Well, it's a great week for both BYU and us, and you could see it. We just, we've had a bit of a consistency has been a thing with our team, and we've talked about it. And we haven't always had consistent point guard play, and that sometimes will cause some trickle down effect, right? At times, and so, and then we have, I think we have game 20. I think we've played 26 games now. We're 75% through Big 12 play. But, we're still learning and growing. We have 10 new players, 7 new staff members. That's the part I think, it's normal to have, 8 to 10 new players. And it's crazy to say that. But it's also all these new staff members. So getting everybody on the same page and moving forward. And it's been quite a year. I can write a book about it, but it's also been invigorating and empowering in some ways. And it's a great group of guys in every aspect, whether it's our coaches or staff or players. And so I thought, even though we went 0-2 at West Virginia and at Cincinnati, I thought we took some real strides forward on that road trip. I thought we learned a lot about ourselves. And you just got to keep chopping wood. I always say, like, I grew up chopping wood, but that's another story I could bore you with. But, you don't knock down a tree on one big axe swing. Maybe Hans does, but I can't. And I'm not sure you can, Scotty. But, you just got to keep going. And I thought we took some big strides. And, you got to eliminate losing to win. You got to have consistency. You got to make winning plays. And we just didn't make quite enough of them at West Virginia and Cincinnati, and they did. And then against Kansas and Kansas State, we did it, and we did it in different ways. And so that was what was really exciting. And how do you win? You got to make the play you have to make to win the game. And sometimes it comes down to that one play or two plays. And Cincinnati tie game, we have 2 great defensive possessions, and we have a younger guy that just kind of mindlessly runs to the rim on a missed 3, and the ball goes right over his head, and then they score. And that happened twice. And, I don't know that it'll happen to him again after that. But you got to go through some learning curves. We're playing some young guys, a lot of minutes. And hopefully we're figuring some things out. We have a week off, which is very rare. I shouldn't say a week, 6 days. And then we have 4 games in 12 days at Central Florida, at Arizona, home against Arizona State, home against West Virginia. And then, of course, we finish at BYU. So let's just lock in and keep getting better and making winning plays. And usually if you do that, good things happen.
Well, Scotty and I are excited for you because, we're watching the momentum build, and you've got yourself right near 500 in one of the toughest conferences in the world. And you got guys that are stepping up and playing some big-time minutes for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about Gabe Madsen, Coach, because if I'm not mistaken, he's a guy that you kind of inherited when you took the job there at the University of Utah. And I feel like he's a guy that we've watched evolve, and he's played some big minutes, and he's played some integral role in these wins for you. Just talk a little bit about Gabe. And is he not from around the area that you were from? Am I wrong in that?
So he's from Minnesota. He lived in Minnesota a long time. I think he actually originally is from Wisconsin. He loves the Green Bay Packers, so you got to forgive him for that. But we recruited him and his twin brother Mason when I was at Utah State. Recruited them both pretty hard. Gabe kind of really blew up. They both kind of did, and I knew it was going to be tough to get him. But we had a relationship with him. And then when I got hired at Utah, Gabe was actually the first commit that we got. Gabe and Mason both went to their identical twins. They went to Cincinnati. That was the highest level that offered both of them. And, that was the year of COVID where you were testing, however many, 4 times a week or whatever it was. And Gabe, I think, played in 2 games. He just didn't have a good experience. He opted out, just knew it wasn't for him. And I don't know what he did for those 4 months. And then the portal opened and we got him in. He's been fantastic. He's a baller. He loves to play the game. Dude's in the gym all the time. He just broke the University of Utah all-time record for made threes in his career, and he's been here, just under 4 years. That's not a 5-year record. That's a 4-year record. But, he's just one of those guys, and he's been through some ups and downs this year. He's been through the worst shooting slump that he's ever been in. I mean, the month of January, quite frankly, the end of December and the month of January and early February were not pretty for – for him, and that really affected our team. And the onus isn't on him, but it was just that's basketball sometimes. There's ups and downs. There's ins and outs. That's life. And you got to grow. And I think one of Gabe's superpowers, if you want to label it like that, is he just lets everything. He's like can just let water run right off of him, and he's back to that. Just playing basketball. I think there's a lot of things that came into play there, but he's back to his old self, and he's a really good player. He was a borderline all-league player a year ago in the Pac-12, and he's our most established player coming back. So on the offensive end, when he was struggling, that really, really hurt us. And we weren't playing nearly to the level we needed to on the defensive end consistently. It was just, oh, man, it was so bothersome because I'm a guy that really believes in defense. I really believe in rebounding. You got to take care of the ball. And now the last about 5 games or so, I feel like we've really amped up our defense and have played much better basketball and have rebounded at a really high level. So, but Gabe's he's a baller, man. He loves the hoop, and the sky's the limit for him.
When you were at Utah State, you were always, top 15 in the country in assists per made field goal ratio, and I know that was a stat that you took very seriously. Right now, according to KenPom, you're number 1 in the country in that number in assists for made field goal ratio. Just how important has that been for the success of this team to be able to learn how to play as a team and really get good looks off good passing?
Well, Utah State, I just had to make sure I brought Kyle Cottom, our SID. I just bring him out to lunch once a week, and we get a couple, 2 or 3 more assists. But, it's a big stat for us. I believe in, a competitive spirit. You got to defend and rebound, but sharing the basketball. I've always, nothing divides a team more than bad shot selection. When guys start cranking up bad shots. Now it's the next, next thing you know, that hero basketball and my turn offense. And so you try to recruit to that. You really try to emphasize it, try to play the game a certain way. I think you attract the right types of, those types of players through the recruiting process when you can show that. And I think 6 of our, after this year, it'll be 6 of our last 7 years. We've been top 25 in the country in those numbers. And, I'm proud of that. It's easy to, when you share the ball like that and you play the game a certain way as a player, like, hey, if I do the right things, you'll be rewarded. And I think it obviously it's an exciting brand of basketball. The state of Utah, very knowledgeable fans, and they understand that. And I've always believed in that. That, and then 2 of our 3 years there, we were top 5 in the country in defensive effective field goal percentage and rebounding, and that's really, really hard to do. And so it's amazing when you have those kinds of numbers how success follows.
What's it like being in the Big 12, Coach? I know you've been doing this coaching thing going back in the 90s, and I know you've had a lot of stops. I don't think you've ever had a stop in the Big 12. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but what are your thoughts of this conference to this point?
It's awesome. I'm so excited to be a part, to be coaching in the Big 12. It's an incredible league. It's 2 years in the Big 10 at Nebraska, and that has its own flavor, so to speak. I was 5 years in the Mountain West at Colorado State, and I thought that really helped me when I took over at Utah State, kind of understanding the league, the environments. When you go on the road, what's it like playing in the pit? What's it like playing, at San Diego State? Just that whole – I just think there was a comfort level that way. This is new. And you learn the league. I watched a lot of film on it, but it's different when you go through it in person. Whether you're playing at home, some elite environments on the road, much like the Pac-12, and quite frankly, some of the Mountain West are really, really good venues, as we all know. And so, but the league is different, and every league is a little bit different. Every league has a little bit of an identity on its own, and I've learned, and it's become very clear some of the things that we have to add from a personnel standpoint. I think we've really figured out the league from some schematics that's really helped us on both ends of the floor, specifically defensively. And so you learn and you grow. You always got to learn. You always got to adapt. But there is no doubt that after 15 games, we have a way better feel for what's going on. It took us about 5 games to figure that out, really 3 when you open up at Baylor, Texas Tech at home, and at Iowa State. It's like, okay, here we go. But it's awesome, man. I've always said bring on the competition. There's a lot of dynamic playmakers in this league. Like, you can play great defense, and almost everybody has 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys that when the shot clock's winding down that just can go make a play. And you can contest them. Even at the end of the K-State game, oh, my God. I mean, the one guy hit from the U, basically half court, with like 45 seconds to go. And there's just so much talent, but I think it's absolutely awesome and fantastic. And, you grow as a coach, you grow as a program, you grow as a team. And I'm excited for, obviously, the rest of the season and the conference tournament and into the future.
When you have a coach who is pretty open and honest in a postgame and saying, yeah, we wanted to send those guys to the free throw line, we saw the percentages, and we rolled the dice, and they made us pay by hitting free throws down the stretch. Is that something you talk about with your team and say, hey, these guys tested you, and you came out on top? I mean, how impressed were you with your guys when they were being challenged, and that was part of the game plan to try to send them to the line, and they responded by hitting some critical free throws down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. We want to get to the foul line. We've always, no matter where we've been good at getting to the foul line. This year's, it's been a bit of an Achilles for us, I guess you could say. Our two guys that get there the most consistently haven't been very good, free throw shooters. But, like I've said for about the last 2 weeks, Ezra Azar, it's one of the reasons we recruited him. Last year at East Carolina, he shot like 6.3 free throws a game. That's incredibly hard to do. When I coached Sam, when I first got hired at Utah State, Sam Merrill was shooting 2.1 free throws a game. He was obviously more of a shooter, right, a catch-and-shoot guy. And when I met with him and his family and fiance, for about 3 hours, we have to make you more of a playmaker. We got to get you to the foul line more. That's a talent. And Sam, his junior year, got to the foul line 5.7 times a game. Of course, he shot 90%, so he's going to get, right off the top, he's going to make 5.3 free throws a game. And so that matters. And so Ezra's got a talent. Last year's team for us struggled to get to the foul line. So that was a big – and he's a freak athlete. And he's made some twitches here he's made some switches probably 2-3 weeks ago, and I think it's really, really helped. And then the other night he goes 7 for 7. And so I knew it was just a matter of time, and I said that on the record. And then Lawson's just got to give himself some grace. Lawson's 7'1". He's a really high achiever. He's very hard on himself, and he just always expects himself to be perfect. And I'm just like, Lawson, give yourself some grace. You're not going to be perfect. We're all imperfect people playing an imperfect game. And so it's going to happen. And he just is stuck with it. He's a competitive guy. I think he went 7 for 11 or 8 for 12 or something like that from the line. And I just love the fact that we're getting to the line. So, that's got to be a big thing for us, is keep attacking that way and keep getting to the paint. And there's a lot of ways to get to the paint, but I was super fired up for those guys because it makes a difference in winning.
I got Timmy tonight in the Spectrum. Got any messages you want me to send his way?
Oh, man. I just saw a thing where they're going to bring him some Aggie ice cream. He's been asking me about that for years. So, it's so cool. I mean, that's my guy. He's such a great person, unbelievable coach. He's my mentor. He means the world to me. And, it's been fun because we always just follow each other. So, those 3 years at Utah State, he tuned into a lot of games. And he's always just the atmosphere, right? The spirit and atmosphere in the Spectrum is pretty contagious and pretty amazing. So he always, commented about it. And so, and I remember the first time he went up there when he was at San Jose, he's like, man, this is a nice place up here. And I'm like, I know. And so I don't have anything specific for him. Just have some fun with him.
I will.
Take a good joke. So get after him a little bit. I'll think of something to text you.
Oh, I will for sure. The thing that I learned a lot about coaching from Craig in terms of what it's like, and when the two of you were at Mayville and driving in a Geo Metro all over the country to find recruits that you could get there. I mean, the stuff that you guys have to deal with at that level, and the travel and the nightmares. I'm like, these guys deserve every dollar they get when they get at a higher level, because the stuff you put your families through and stuff, it's just amazing to hear some of those stories.
Oh man, we could really have some fun with those. One time I took a Greyhound bus to Birmingham, Alabama, and back to Tulsa, and I could write a book on that experience. It was awesome. I was sharing that with our staff the other day. But you've been through the grind of it. He loves the coach. I love the coach. You don't do it for all the other peripheral stuff. It's just about doing what we love to do and hopefully positively impacting people. And you just do what you got to do, right? It's what anybody does. It's what any family does. You got to do what you got to do for the family, for the program. I think we had a $1,500 recruiting budget. So just,
oh my gosh,
filling up the gas with. I mean, an 8-hour one-way trip wasn't a big deal. You just go do it. Hey, drive 8 hours, watch a game, drive 8 hours home. You don't think anything of it. You think a little bit more of it the older you get. When you have kids that are starting to get into the profession, like, hey, just be careful on those all-night drives. They get the same response that I got. Yeah, Dad, we'll be fine. So, but I think you appreciate the journey when you reflect on some of the things that you did and the obstacles you go through, and you appreciate the moment. You really appreciate your players because they were the same way. You hop on a bus, drive 14 hours, play a game, and drive home, and you don't think anything of it. So. Some great times and great memories.
Coach, you're the best. We appreciate it. Keep it rolling. Looking forward to catching up again here soon.
Good luck on this finish, Coach.
All right, guys. I appreciate you having me on. You guys are great people, man. Appreciate you guys.
You as well, Coach.
You got it. There he is, Craig Smith, head coach of the University of Utah men's basketball team.